Everybody, welcome to the channel. Today we're talking about ultimate meme stock, a Pltr stock, PLTR. And I kind of missed the wagon on when it was just absolutely getting insane, but it still is doing some crazy nonsense. So I want to talk about what it is. I want to talk about what the company does. I want to talk about if we feel like they are overvalued, because that's been the biggest argument that people have been talking about, that they think this stock is overvalued by an absolute crap load. So we're going to talk about that and what your boy is doing. So I bought in at about $22. As of today, I think it was trading like 27 or like 28 or something like that after its big fall that it already had. And I'm going to tell you what I'm doing with this one and the future I see for this stock, which is quite bright. So we're going to go ahead and talk about all that stuff. If you enjoy the content, think about subscribing. This is actually my largest position right now because I'm actually super bullish on this one. Spoiler alert. So we're going to go ahead and dive into all that stuff. So let's dive in. So what exactly are they? What do they do? What exactly should we know about this company? So this company is an American software company that does data analytics. So, I mean, what everybody says is, what the actual heck does that mean? So an example of what they do with data analytics is we can look at one of their customers. So the National Institute of Health has a $36 million contract with Palantir, and they go ahead and do research studies on cancer and COVID, including stuff with the vaccine that's coming out, which is one very bullish point that I'm very excited about. So what they're going to do is they provide them with all of this information, or they have the Palantir software. They plug all of this information in to see if it's effective. They go ahead and see if it's actually working, how the vaccine is being spread, and everything like that. So they're just basically being able to organize the data in a readable way, and they're going to be making decisions based on this data that they're crunching for them. So that's simple enough. They also have a U.S. Army contract, and they have a $300 million aerospace contract. Now, the Army contracts are a little bit different because they have like espionage type softwares and everything like that, and fraud type softwares. But mainly it's just crunching data and trying to figure out if things are prudent and good or if things need to be changed. And this data actually saves companies lots of money in the fact that they can see where things are not so efficient, so they can actually, save money based on this data. And based on reviews from the data too, apparently it's a very, very sticky product where it's like once you get in there, there's additional services that are offered, and eventually you just kind of get in there. It's kind of like when you buy an iPhone, you're just stuck with it, and it kind of sounds like that's what this whole entire system is. So a very, very, very sticky product. So let's dive into the last earnings here. So this is like the super duper duper cliff notes of their earnings. I'd recommend you dive in there and actually look through it all. But super duper cliff notes just to kind of show that there's going to be some decent growth, I think, in the future here. So Q3 they made $289 million in revenue, and they look like they were super duper negative, but their cost to IPO was most of that and the payment they had to make out to their shareholders. So we're not going to be seeing that next quarter, that huge negative. So that was the revenue they made in Q3, and this was a 52% increase year over year. And I think this is due to mainly the fact that they're just getting an increased customer base, which is great. Q4, they are projected to get 299 to 301, which is a 30% year over year. So this is awesome growth potential, I think, that we're going to be seeing. And it's kind of surprising because they have been not a public company, but they have been a company that's been around for about 17 years. But I think they're finally starting to gain a good amount of traction. And the fact that they're actually getting into like the U.S. government and institutes of health and everything like that is a very, very bullish sign for them, I think. 2020 guidance that they gave us was 1.07 to 1.072, which is a very specific number, billion. So when we think about that, next year they're projected to make $1 billion. And they're worth right now, their market cap, around $40 billion. So if we look in the future, that's a PE of 40, which is very, very high. So just strictly based on that, you'd think, yes, we are overvalued. But are we paying for a valuation like Snowflake has, where the valuation just doesn't make sense? Kind of like an Amazon, where it's like the valuation just kind of never makes sense. Or are we paying for this large amount of growth that we're probably going to be seeing in the future as well? So I think the valuation is okay. It is so stinking hard to evaluate something that's such a big growth stock. So I think we're really paying for the growth. Another thing we can look at to kind of feel comfortable with the valuation is, where have other people placed the value of this company in the past? So Forbes, they valued it in 2014 at $9 billion, at the end of 2015 at $20 billion. And since 2015, they have gotten so many more contracts, and their growth has been exponential since then. So if we're talking about 5 years of time, I would say their market cap since then is probably at least 2x, I would say. based on the Forbes market cap they're thinking. Morgan Stanley has a $15 target on it, which market cap wise would be about a little bit more than half of where it is now. And then Citron, oh, 1 second. Freaking Citron, these guys. They had a short tweet saying it's a full-blown casino, expletives, bunch of wieners. But they shorted it down to 20, so they even still see value within it at 20. So that market cap is still significantly less than 40, but you see they're still seeing that there's some value in this company. And I think the main thing we're paying for here is growth. So that's what we're paying for here, Citron. So we're going to go ahead and throw up a bull thesis and a bear thesis and kind of see where we're thinking it's going to land. So we're going to be going through here the bull and the bear thesis. So whenever investing in a company, I always like to look at both sides of things. And if one side outweighs the other, then I'm going to go ahead and either invest or I'm going to not invest. So I like to look at both cases here. So bull thesis, why I really like this company in particular. I think the growth they could have is absolutely bananas. So the growth they could have due to COVID, vaccines, I already wrote that down there, U.S. government contracts that they're going to be having, aerospace contracts, I believe that their growth could be really, really insane. That being said, most of their revenue comes from only the top, I believe, 40% of their contracts, and they only have like 130 some contracts or something like that. So they don't have a crazy amount of contracts, and if somebody were to cancel with them, that could really, really hurt their revenue. But seeing as they have such a sticky service, I don't think that anybody's really going to be doing that, and I think they're just going to be growing and getting more and more contracts. I think that we're going to be seeing profitability in 2021, and that's going to be another thing that's going to spur a decent jump in growth. I don't know how much percent-wise, and I don't know if that's going to be Q4 or not, but I do believe that's going to spur a good amount of growth here. So what is the bear thesis on this one that everybody's saying? Is the valuation. People are not a fan of that 40 billion or whatever the heck it is now because it's freaking moving up and down like a goddamn casino. So people are not a fan of that $40 billion valuation that they have. No profit. They have been in business, I believe, since 2003 or 2004. And they haven't posted a profit since then. That being said, their growth the last few years has been exponential. So I'm hoping they keep the wheels turning on that. Cash burn, they need to start pulling in a profit. So hopefully next year they start pulling in a profit and then things are just going to go up from there and there and there, and hopefully they become profitable soon too. So this is a big thing where it's like, when are they going to start making a profit on these things? So hard to value, and that's the case with any growth stock, I feel like, where it's like just super duper hard to value. It's got a 40 PE if you take the revenue from all of next year, and that's currently where it's at. If it goes much higher than that. But then again, that being said, similar companies are valued at higher valuations like that, where it just kind of doesn't make sense where it's not a value stock, it's a growth stock. So it is really, really hard to value. Are we all getting a sad case of FOMO, fear of missing out? So I really wanted to look into this company just to see, because I saw it everywhere. It was the meme stock of the week or the month or whatever. And I really wanted to make sure that I wanted to be in this. And after looking into it and reading through the earnings and everything and kind of figuring out what the company actually was, I see huge, huge growth potential in this one. So that is why I'm in it. I'm pretty excited for it. I got it at like 22 or 23, something like that. I think at the end of today it was like 28. So I'm feeling pretty happy about it right now, and I'm just a long-term hold. Even if it dipped below 23, I'm not going to sweat it. So people get these shaky hands because they're not sure what it is, and they think it's just the meme stock of the week. And it's like, well, if you hold this for long-term, I see really great things happening with the company. So it really puts me to ease, even if it's having a really rough time with these shaky-handed people out there. So that's what I have for you. This is a big position of mine. So if you want to follow and, watch all the comeuppance on PLTR, then go ahead and do so. So hopefully you guys make some money.